Welcome to the Newsa-Cast YouTube channel. These Red Smith Banquet throwbacks are exclusive interviews of sports legends, powerful media personalities, and influential coaches. You won't find these anywhere else. Subscribe below and enjoy. The throwback to Bill Walton at the 2022 Red Smith Banquet in Appleton, Wisconsin was part of our podcast episode featuring training youth athletes with Mike Draheim of Accelerate. A special thank you to past Red Smith Banquet sponsors Bolt Construction, Hurling Clark, and Keller, who are among many. A link to the episode is in the description and also posted on this YouTube channel. While you're here, please follow and like our videos. It really does matter. Thank you, and enjoy the legendary Bill Walton. Yeah!
Love Bill Walton, so when Joe told me that Bill was going to be coming tonight, I couldn't get here fast enough. And Bill told me, Shane, don't mess around with any intros. Get me up there and let's get right at it. So that's what we're going to do. Ladies and gentlemen, the legendary Mr. Bill Walton. Well, Bill, welcome to Appleton.
Wow. Wow. What a deal. I made it. I made it. It's past my bedtime pretty much, but just got off the Grateful Dead tour, ready to go here. Listening to the Curlers throwing stones, I thought that was the song we were chanting for. Or it was about going on a trip to the urologist. I'm not sure. But to hear the stories of Casey, and now I can't figure out, was it Leroy or was it Roy Lee? Or was that just me hearing Roy Lee? I mean, I couldn't figure that one out, but just to hear their stories, and my life couldn't have been more different. And then the curling guys, yeah. Curling, that's my favorite sport. I just happen to be 6'11", and I'm much better at getting high than getting low. So, but the opportunity to come to the basketball capital of this universe, oh my gosh, the home of our Milwaukee Bucks, and how fantastic. And we can only hope that they do it again this year, because it's such a beautiful team and a beautiful community, and love everything about it. And to be here today and have the incredible warm reception and welcome that I got here in Appleton today, and to have the pickup last night at the airport in Milwaukee by Joe, and then an incredible tour of your beautiful, magnificent city this morning by Mackenzie, young Mackenzie. Oh my gosh. There is nothing better than to see the smile on the faces of young people, and to see the video up here where you just gave all this money to empower people, and then to come here tonight and to be able to meet Jim and Lisa, Mackenzie's parents, and all the people who have spent so much of their lives to build this remarkable community. And I was really thrilled to be able to get to Lawrence College today, because that was my first choice to go to college, but I couldn't get in. So I had to go to a public school in Los Angeles. And when I was at the NBA 75 celebration in Cleveland, February 18th, not that I remember the date, but I had the privilege of reacquainting with Giannis, and what an incredible human being he is. And I have no idea. I never assume that anyone knows me or anything about me. So I always introduce myself. My name is Bill, 2 L's, and I'm from San Diego. And I've got this brand new team back here that I sat with at the table with Michael, with Accelerate, and then Jen, and Kip, and Ryan, and Luke, and Chris, and Bill, and it's just a spectacular team, joining some of the other great teams I've been part of, UCLA, and the Portland Trail Blazers, and the Boston Celtics. And if we had had Steve Ballmer as our owner on the Clippers instead of Donald Sterling, we would have been a lot better off. And if you ever doubt the value and power and importance of leadership, just check out the difference between the criminal nature and behavior of Donald Sterling with the worst basketball and even worse business practices. Oh my gosh. And now you have Steve Ballmer, and he's running just the model franchise. Absolutely incredible. But when I was with Giannis at the All-Star 75, we were just chatting aimlessly, mindlessly, which is the worst kind of conversation to have. But we were just having a good time and a good laugh, and I kind of had to tell him that I had gone to UCLA. And he looked at me with that really fine accent that he has. He says, "Oh, is that a college in Los Angeles?" And I said, "Yes." But to be here on the heels of a championship for the Bucks, and the Bucks with the championship 50 years ago, because that was a team that was all anchored by UCLA people with Kareem, Oscar, yes, he went to Cincinnati, but Lucius Allen, incredible, Bob Dandridge, all these guys, Hall of Famers, phenomenal players out there, and then Larry Costello, who just went into the Basketball Hall of Fame. And it was just absolutely spectacular for me to be with Giannis, with Steph, and all the other heroes, Kevin Durant, and all the players who are going to be deciding in front of our lives the future, because the winners get to write history. And listen to young Casey here and the stories. Before I got here today, I thought La Crosse was a city in Wisconsin. And then I heard him speak, and I'm asking myself, I have one skill in life, and that is that I'm somehow, some way, able to get to places where I don't belong. And that's this stage too, with Leroy or Roy Lee, I can't figure it out. You're gonna help me with this, Shane. And then Casey, and then the curlers, Colin and John, and the other guy, I didn't get his name, but the guy with the hair. And to see that, and to be here too, in the presence of Abby, our phenomenal anthem singer. And I had the privilege of having my picture made with Abby before the show tonight, and to be able to be in her presence when she was just glowing up here on the stage, and how much fun that is, because I love the anthem. And the anthem is like religion, it's like spirituality, it's like humanity. There's a lot of us, and we're all different. But that moment before the moment of truth, which is the national anthem, when they play the song and whatever it means to you, but that's your private time. And you don't get a lot of private time in life when you just get to think, and you just get to dream, and you just get to feel. And I was just reliving all the memories that I had through young Abby, because her opportunity as just a young child getting up here on the stage. And I was so super lucky, because I found sports when I was 8 years old. And when I say found, because it was a simple twist of fate. I hear the ticking of the clock. How long must I wait for that simple twist of fate? People tell me it's a sin to know and feel too much within. Blame it on that simple twist of fate. But my parents, the greatest parents ever, right? But we had nothing. I'm not like Leroy or Roy Lee. I'm not like Casey. I'm not like John, Colin, and the hair dude. I was not born with a silver spoon in my mouth. I was lucky to have a plastic spoon. But while we had nothing in terms of material possessions, we had everything, because we had a family, and I had great parents, greatest parents ever, who had zero interest in sports. Zero. I never shot a basket with my dad. I saw him run one time at the church picnic and fell over laughing. It wasn't St. Joseph's Church right next door to here. No, but we beat them badly. And then my mom was our town's librarian. But I was super lucky in that I found my first coach when I was 8 years old, following my older brother. Now, my older brother recently passed 2 years, 18 months older than me. He was a football player. He played for all of your favorite team, the Dallas Cowboys. And after being an All-America at UCLA, academic All-America. But Bruce and I are the only brothers in the history of the world, or at least of this world, to have played in the Super Bowl and to have won the NBA championship. And so here it was one day after school, I'm following Bruce home, and he wasn't going home. And I kept saying, what's going on? Where are we going? What's happening? And he said, just follow me. And so I did. And I found sports and my very first coach that day. His name was Rocky. And he had another name, but nobody ever called him anything other than Rocky. And Rocky was a pillar of our community. He was a fireman. And when I was out there just on the east side of Appleton North High School, and I saw the Lungard Park being ready to be built for the next generations, and I can think of a fireman at 40 years old in this town gunned down at the bus station because he did what firemen do. He did what you folks do. You see a need, you see trouble, and you head right for it, and you say, I'll take care of this. Firefighter Lungard, he gave his life for us. Rocky, he gave his life for us. He wasn't gunned down, no. Rocky, he was the volunteer coach at our elementary school for 57 years. And he never took a penny. And when he finally died, he died just a couple years ago. But he did everything. When he finally died, he was the richest guy I've ever known in my life. And we can't sit here today and say that Rocky knew anything about sports, but he knew life, and he knew fun, and he knew joy, and he knew how to build a team and build a community. And what I have seen here in Appleton has just reaffirmed my belief that the effort it's going to take to get to tomorrow is worth it. Because we live these blessed and privileged lives, and the questions that, what's your name again? And so we live these lives that are blessed, that are privileged, but privilege, it demands responsibility and obligation and duty, and the duty that we are realizing right here in this room. And all you have to do, this has been a great program and a great event and a wonderful city. And I mean, and Appleton, when I think of Appleton, I just think of this beautiful sunny spring day that we had today. And that's all we get here is just nothing but endless sunshine. And so when we had all the speakers up here, and then the last video, and the children receiving the tools, the equipment, and whether it's sporting equipment or whether it's a computer or a new tablet or whether it's some clothes or whether it's some food or whatever it is they need, because that's what this group is all about. Red Smith Awards. I'll take care of that, and you guys certainly have done that, and I saw that in your community today. And so as I've been on just an incredible run in my life, going from the NBA's all-time 75 team, I mean, it was remarkable when I got that information back in September of 21. I was in Houston giving a talk and a speech to a big real estate conference, and I got home that night. I was checking all my electronics and all the communication that we have today, and there it was, that I had been named one of the top 75 players in the history of the NBA. And I said, yeah, man. That is really, really cool. And so the next morning, see, because in sports, I found early on, from the very beginning, sports gave me hope, opportunity, and purpose. And when I see this is a purpose-driven group here. And I love purpose, I live for purpose. Over the next 61 years, I'm 69 years old now, I have added pride, loyalty, and gratitude to the hope, opportunity, and purpose. And so the first thing, I'm in that car on the way to the airport the next morning, going on to wherever's next, and so I start calling. I start calling the teams, because I wanted to be great from the very beginning, and I wanted to be the best. And I realized quickly that I could not do it by myself. I needed a coach, I needed teammates, I needed a platform, and I needed the fans, the people that just make it all happen. So first call in the morning to Blazers. Thanks a lot, man. This is so cool, man. I am so happy, so proud. I'm just elated over the top. Then I call the Clippers. I call Steve Ballmer, right? I wouldn't have called Sterling. He probably can't get through to him in jail where he belongs. And I like to choose to be on the side of goodness, right? Somehow in my life, evil has a way of finding me, right? But I try to choose goodness at every turn, every fork in the road. And I call, thanks, Steve. This is incredible. This is just the greatest. What can I say? It doesn't get any better than this. And then I call the Boston Celtics, my boyhood dream team. And I know that Bob Cousy and Dave Cowens and Tommy Heinsohn have spoken here, and I come in support, honor, and tribute to them. I also know that Dr. J and Bob Costas have been speakers here at this incredible event. Well, with Bob and Dr. J, I have come to set the record straight. And so I call the Celtics to get them on the phone. I say, man, this is so cool. We're going on and talking and how just the greatest. And I say, oh, now, by the way, there's 75 guys on the team. How many of them are Celtics? And the guy says, he leans right into the phone. He says, without any hesitation, Bill, 75 guys, there are 20 of them who are Celtics. That's 26% of the all-time NBA team are Boston Celtics. I said, yeah, that's really cool. So we're talking and chatting, going on. And then I'm pulling up to the airport. And got to say goodbye. So as I'm saying goodbye, I said, just for my own personal information, how many of these 75 guys are Lakers? And without hesitation, the guy leans in. He says, I don't know and I don't care. Goodbye. And he hangs up. He's been asking everybody about pride, the pride of being part of the Boston Celtics, the pride of being part of the NBA, the pride of being part of a UCLA, just absolutely incredible. And then when I was having this remarkable life in NBA 75 and the All-Star Weekend and then the Grateful Dead tours and all the different things we've been doing and celebrating UCLA's undefeated championship team from 50 years ago this season, a team that's generally regarded as the greatest all time in the history of college basketball. And then we had Kareem's 75th birthday party, and we had all this other stuff going on, which I can't even remember. It's just been such a blur and a whirlwind. I was reminded of James Worthy. Now, please bear in mind that when we played, and whenever you hear anybody say when we played, it just immediately a light goes on in your head as the audience. This guy's really old and he's lost his mind, right? But we did not like the other team. We hated the other team. This was not about hugging and kissing the other team, right? This was about getting in a fight. This was about winning the game, right? And so, we had nicknames for all the fakers. Magic was tragic, and James Worthy was worthless, and Kareem with the big goggles was the lizard. And so there's this one game, and we're playing, and it's right there at the moment of truth. Abby's already sung the anthem. We're playing, and right there at the end, we got to win, and we're in the huddle, and we got to figure out one play. And so finally, time is running out, and we're all sitting there, and I look over here, and I say, okay, you take tragic, you take worthless, and I got the lizard now. Let's go, right? And Casey Jones, our coach, just incredible as can be. He just says, wait a second, what is this? This is ridiculous. Where's your respect for the opposition, for the platform, for the franchise? They're great champions. Now, come on, we're representing the best of the best. You cannot disrespect the opposition. And we're like, oh, come on, Casey. And he turns and walks out, right? And so he gets right to the edge of the huddle, that special circle of life, right? He gets right to the edge and he makes an immediate pivot, comes back 180 degrees, comes right back. He says, I got it, guys. I got the plan right here. You take tragic, you take worthless, and you take the lizard. Now let's go. We won that game as well. So here's James Worthless, right? Who actually turns out to be a fantastic human being. And at his Hall of Fame enshrinement ceremony, he told the story of how he got started. Now, unlike Casey and Roy Lee or Leroy and John and the hair guy and Colin, James Worthy did not grow up with a silver spoon either. Man, so one night when he's a young boy and he's got the dream and he's the vision and it's all happening for him, right? Except he doesn't have the motivation. He doesn't have the drive. He doesn't have the spark. He doesn't have the light. And he's in the living room of the family home. Wasn't a mansion like what's your name again, Shane? Yeah, it wasn't like a mansion that Shane lives in, right? Wasn't like one of those mansions out there in Purdy Estates, right? Looking out over the world, man. This was more like over by the dairy factory, right? Over by on the industrial section, right? And so he's sitting in the living room, and his parents, or mom and dad, are in the kitchen, and they don't know that he's here in the kitchen, in the living room, listening to this conversation. They think he's out playing, running around, doing whatever young children do. And so James overhears his mom and dad talking about the financial woes that the family's facing right now and how much trouble that they're in. The older two boys are already grown and gone. But here's James, the last one there, and they know that education is the key to success and to moving forward. And so they're going back and forth. What are we going to do? We're not going to be able to afford for James to go to college. This is just going to be a disaster for our job as parents to try to get this guy on his way. And James hears this, and he makes the commitment right then and there that he's going to get to work and he's going to go out there and earn a college scholarship. The same way that these young people who are on this stage here tonight, we're earning that much needed college scholarship. I had a college scholarship. My older brother had a college scholarship. We know firsthand how much that will change our lives and our whole family's lives. And so James Worthy goes out there and he gets that college scholarship to go to North Carolina and to play for Dean Smith, right? And then he gets to play with Michael Jordan, Michael gets to play with James. And then Sam Perkins on the team, and all these different players, and the legacy of Larry Brown and Bob McAdoo and George Karl and Doug Moe and all these legendary players, and phenomenal success story in college. And then he gets to be the #1 overall draft pick. The #1 overall pick. And there's not too many of those guys because there's only one of them every year. And so he gets drafted by the Lakers. And he gets out to Los Angeles, and the Lakers, they were a good team. They already won a couple of championships. So they had Tragic and the Lizard out there already, and they were going for it. And so they call up James when he gets to Los Angeles. They said, James, welcome to LA. This is all great. We're all real happy and proud that you're here. Now we want you to go play in the Summer League. And James goes, Summer League? I'm James Worthy, man. We just won the NCAA championship. So they argue back and forth. James wants no part of the Summer League. The team wants him to go be part of the Summer League. And so finally, James realizes that he's in a no-win situation. So he says, great. I'm happy to go play in the Summer League. Please, just have Kareem pick me up on the way to the games. James never played in the Summer League, right? And so when I'm on my way here to Cleveland for NBA 75 on February 18th, not that I remember the date, Kareem sends me a picture on a text, and Kareem had picked up James Worthy in Los Angeles on Kareem's private jet to take him to the all-time NBA team. You never know how the game of life is going to play out, and that was the deal with me, because I knew I was that child in these pictures, in these videos, with that big grin and that big dream, about being part of something really special. And I knew I was going to be a player at the very beginning. I mean, basketball was the easiest part of my life. Academics, the second easiest. Straight A student the entire way through. My challenges have been orthopedic health. I listened to Casey's story and Roy Lee, their story, and the guy with the hair and all these fancy dudes, right? And, I spent half my adult life in the hospital. I've had 39 orthopedic operations. This I got defending the honor of the Milwaukee Bucks. Yeah. And so here I was, living this life of frustration, of disappointment, because my legs wouldn't carry me to my dreams. In those 39 operations, both of my ankles are fused, both of my knees have been replaced, my hands and wrists don't work. I've broken every bone from down there. My spine has been basically rebuilt, reconstructed, replaced, and look at my face. I mean, for those of you who are still lucky enough to play basketball, don't play defense with your face, because this is what happens to you. 14 broken noses. I need one more. Hopefully I won't get one tonight after this event's over. But I had my front teeth knocked out 10 different times. Please, don't play defense with your face. But despite all the horrific health challenges that I've had, by far my biggest challenge is that I'm a lifelong stutterer, and that I could not say a word, could not say hello, could not say thank you until I was 28 years old. Learning how to speak is my greatest accomplishment and your worst nightmare. And so is that you, Jim? Yeah.
Bill.
Wait.
You told me before this, you said you got to cut me off.
You got to tell me your name
You told
first.
me this. You said, Shane, you got to reel me in.
Okay.
So I'm gonna switch gears real quick.
Hold on a second.
Tell us about John Wooden. Give us a couple of John Wooden stories.
We're just getting started here tonight, please. You got to calm down. If you want to go take a seat down there, I got this, okay? So when I was talking to Joe Ornstein, and how cool, that his dad and his dad's legacy and foundation have sponsored the next generation. I mean, it's always about what's next, right? And that whole dream coming true here. I mean, here we are, Red Smith, right? Where dreams become reality, where we come to grow, and where the deal goes down. And so when I was talking to Joe Ornstein about this whole deal, I live by the motto, failing to prepare is preparing to fail. So I'm trying to get a sense of what's going to happen here. And he really won't tell me. He just keeps telling me this is an award show. You get up there, there's going to be some crazy person named Shane up here who's going to talk about a lot of stuff, curling, and lacrosse. We're going to go visit lacrosse on a field trip. And then there's football. I mean, come on. Basketball is the most perfect game of all. Football is basically a halfway house between the army and prison. And then baseball is a bunch of out-of-shape guys standing around, scratching themselves, taking steroids, waiting for the game of life to come to them. No, but basketball, yeah. Very much like drinking tequila, In basketball, they just put the ball in the air, and then it's who can play, who's got a game, who's in shape, and who really wants this. It's like tequila. You open that bottle, and much like the Grateful Dead, a basketball game, life itself, you never know where it's going to take you. And so I remember when I was that young person in the video with the smile on their face because they just got their first piece of equipment, right? And I'm in the 7th grade at the time, so that means I'm probably 11 years old, and so my dad, greatest dad ever, but no interest in sports. And so my dad worked 3 jobs, and he was a social worker by day, an adult educator by night, and a music teacher on the weekends. My mom was our town's librarian. And so my dad, who gave up his life so that our dreams could come true. And that's really what sacrifice is all about. Sacrifice, If Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk write a check for whatever, $1 million, $1 billion, is that really going to have an impact on their lives? And but my dad, we didn't have anything, and my dad worked all the time, and he looked forward to those times when he could have his time with the music, with the garden, with the sunshine outside. And I was playing 2 basketball games every weekday afternoon after school, and then 6 or 7, maybe 8 games each Saturday and each Sunday. And I would ride my bike and ride my skateboard to get there. But I was figuring out quickly that I couldn't get there. I couldn't get to enough, because all I ever wanted in my life was more. And so but I couldn't get there, because to get to each and play part of each game, I had to leave early or get there late. And so I convinced my dad, will you drive me to some of my games this weekend? So reluctantly, he said yes. And so I'm sitting in the family car. And I got the ball in my hand, man, this perfect orb, right, that you're just dreaming about. I mean, it's pretty much like one of those stones that these guys hold, but it's like it's round and it's soft and it's beautiful and you kind of squeeze it, and it's like, it's fantastic. And it's the perfect extension of your mind. And so I'm sitting in the car dreaming about jumpers and backdoor passes and block shots and rebounds and all the different stuff. And I look over, and for the first time in my dad, who was a forever optimist, my dad, who loved classical music. Now, he would have loved the Mila music here, but we were in San Diego, and he was not coming to Wisconsin. And so here he was trying to find his station, fine-tune it there on the radio, and I looked at him for the first time in my life. I saw angst. I saw disappointment. I saw the frustration of a man whose life was slipping away, because he had just given everything he had so that other people's dreams could come true. And so I reached out, dreaming, and I turned down the radio, and I looked over to him. I said, Dad, I love you so much, and I'm so grateful and appreciative for you taking me to these basketball games today, Dad. I'm gonna pay you back, Dad. I'm gonna pay you back, because one day I'm gonna be in the NBA, Dad. I'm gonna be the most valuable player in the NBA, Dad. And when you're the most valuable player in the NBA, the MVP, they give you a free car, Dad. And I'm gonna win that car. I'm gonna give it to you in appreciation for you driving me today. And he looked at me and turned the radio back up. He said, Billy, that's really nice, but tell me, what is this NBA you're talking about? And so I did win the MVP, and I called him up. And he came up to Portland to pick it up. And when I presented it to him, I mean, you talk about pride. You talk about the pride of a dad, the pride that I see in a parent, of Eric, Tosh, and of Jim and Lisa, and Joe, and all the other parents that I've met here tonight. And just the pride of a parent and what you folks are doing in enabling children to allow their parents to be proud of them. So my dad, who had glasses this thick, my dad who had hearing aids in both ears, I cannot believe that the state of California would give this guy a driver's license. But my dad would get up every day and he'd put on the NBA's all-time team jacket, this red leather garish monstrosity that not even Snoop Dogg would wear. And my dad would go and get in that MVP car, and he would drive around our town and wave to all his buddies. And when little Mackenzie was driving me around today, and she was telling me about all the bakeries and the music stores, and I was a little concerned because she's a college graduate now, went to UW-Madison, and while I spent all my time in college in the library and church, I got the hint from the way she was talking and giving me the tour that she knew where far too many bars were in this beautiful town. But that sense of it all coming together, as it did for me when I had the privilege as a young player of being a college recruit. And yes, Lawrence was after me big time. And to see that beautiful college and then be down there in Tallulah Park and Poplar Hall and all the different things. I was looking for the owls in City Park, but we were on the wrong street corner today and we couldn't figure it out. And so, but I was 15 and it was 1967 and it was the summer of love in California, and I'd already been to my first Grateful Dead concert and it was just over the top, and I am living the dream, right? And it's like, yeah, here we go. And all these colleges were coming after me and they're saying, come on, Bill, you come to our school, we'll make you the most famous player in the history of our program. You'll set all the records, Bill. And Mr. Walton, how about a new job? I know you're a working man. Mrs. Walton, and you're the librarian, how about a shopping spree? How about some new jewelry? And then they turned back to me and they said, Billy, here's the cheerleader's phone number. She's our closer out there, right? I said, yeah, let's go, right? And then another guy with the hair, right? He wanted to know about Coach Wooden. So Coach Wooden walked into our house for the first time. The same house that my mom spent 69 years, the last 69 years of her life. She just passed on January 8th, not that I remember the date, but I was the last person to see her alive. And I let my dad down because my dad, he told me, coming down the stretch for him, he said, Billy, I want to die at home. But I was the one that closed the door to the ambulance. We thought we could still save him, and I let my dad down on that moment. I also let him down when I didn't name, as per his request, to name one of our 6 children. I'm the third. I'm William T. Walton the third. He's the second. He wanted a fourth. I was too young. I didn't know any better. I didn't respond to his wishes. And so as John Wooden walked into the family home, he looked at me and he looked at my parents. He said, Bill, Mr. and Mrs. Walton, I know what all the other schools are promising you. Now, please know that these promises were over the top. And let your imagination run wild. I used to think that I had a vivid imagination, but that was before I met Dennis Rodman and Marv Albert. And they changed the entire spectrum of what was going on out there, right? But it was wild, it was crazy, it was fun, man. And I'm guilty of everything. Mostly I'm guilty of smiling on a cloudy day. And so Coach Wooden looks at me, he's very serious, very stern dude, and he looks at me, he looks at my parents, and he said, I know what all the other schools are promising you, but that's not the way life works. And the only thing I can promise you, Bill, Mr. and Mrs. Walton, I can promise you that I'll give you a chance to be a part of something special. And when you're part of something special, like this Red Smith Award group, this city, Appleton, Wisconsin, that'll change your life. And you'll spend the rest of your life chasing it down to try to duplicate and replicate that. And so he's also said that night that being part of something special, that's a privilege that you have to earn every single day. And then he closed it that night by saying, Bill, I've seen you play. You're going to be fine. I'm not worried about that. But what I see in you, Bill, is someone who wants to be the best, who wants to be the champion. And I'm telling you here, because Coach Wooden, he was the first great player in basketball. And he was a player who came from that position of being the best. And he said to me that night, to be the best in everything, to win it all, constantly, it's not how good you are. It's how good that person right next to you is. It's how good the team is. And that's why I made the choice to go to UCLA. And everything he said came true. Now, I was Coach Wooden's easiest recruit. Yes, I had to turn down Lawrence College, but I was his easiest recruit. I became his worst nightmare. And I drove the poor guy to an early grave at 99. Because I always wanted to know why. Why I had to cut my hair, why I had to shave, why I had to wear the clothes he wanted me to wear, why Nixon was president, why we were in Vietnam, and why the cheerleaders couldn't be in my hotel room on the road trips. Now, this was his look. This was his deal. He was an English teacher by profession, right? He happened to have young people under his athletic supervision in the afternoon. But this was his look. He would rest his chin on his thumb and then have that finger over his parched lips. Very serious dude who took his job and responsibilities very personally, very sincerely. And so he would listen patiently, faithfully, and finally he'd roll his eyes and he'd wave his hands and say, Bill, it's all fine and good that you think this way, but I'm the coach here. And while we've enjoyed having you, we're going to miss you, Bill. And as soon as he said that, I knew I had lost. I had a 43-year relationship with the guy, 3 years as a high school player when he was recruiting me, 4 years with him as he was my coach, our coach. And then the best years by far, the 36 years after he stopped coaching. Because that was when he started to open up about himself, about other things. Because when he was our coach, that's all he did. We heard the other guys talk about their families and the sacrifice that the families had to, don't ever hear about the guys who have been up on this stage about the sacrifices that we've had to make. No. It's the families that have to sacrifice. Our sacrifices are choices. And the sacrifice that we have to make in life is one that all of us have to make, is that the things that we give up to remain who we are. And that's the sacrifice that someone like us, this honorees up on here, this stage here tonight. And so it was going on, and I was 21 in my life before I ever encountered anyone who did not have my best interest at heart. And then I joined the NBA. And I realized immediately the mistake I had made. Nobody's made more mistakes than me. Nobody has failed more often than me. None of my mistakes were sitting there at the fork in the road and saying, okay, I'll just think I'll go do the wrong thing, right? No, I wake up every morning saying, what can I do to make the world, what can I do to make my universe better? You know, because my goal in life is to be better, to do better, and to do more. And so as soon as I realized, it was the very first day that I had blown this incredible opportunity with Coach Wooden, that I went back to him and I pledged to myself that I was going to quit causing the guy grief and consternation. And so I tried to make it up to him, and over the next 36 years of his life, I became his friend. I can't and don't speak for others, and I certainly don't speak for my wife, and I don't speak for Coach Wooden. Now, my wife, Lori, the greatest everything ever, you know, she's just been here this whole wild ride here, and she's still here, and the fact that she still takes my phone calls is amazing as can be. And whatever his name is, he's not going to take my call anymore, right? And so, as Coach Wooden and I repaired the breaks of the game, we did 1,000 events of all kinds. This kind of events, arena shows, television shows, movies, specials, bar mitzvahs, car wash openings, pizza parlor deals, right? You name it, we did it. And one night we're doing this show, and we're both up here on the stage, and we're doing the show, and it gets to the Q&A, and the person, the Joe, the Paul, the Fred, the Nick, who was ever going to do it, comes up and whispers in Coach Wooden's ears. He said, hey man, there's time for one more question. And Coach Wooden always moderated the Q&A, and he only picked on the pretty ladies in the audience. And so, but as the Q&A was going on and on and on, and there's this young guy sitting right in the front row, big media badge, right? And he's just like writing everything down. He's so intent, and he's trying to get into the Q&A, right, all the night long. And Coach Wooden won't even look at him. Coach Wooden had fantastic peripheral vision, right? But he's just ignoring the guy the whole night. And when Coach is told that, okay, you got one question left, Coach announces this will be the final question, and the guy's, yeah, come on, Coach, and Coach looking all around. What's your question, young man? And just by looking at the guy, you could tell. I mean, I could look at Jim, and I know that Jim was there. I could look at Joe, and I could see at Paul, and I can see a lot of the other guys here who were there. But this young guy had no idea what was going down in the 60s and 70s, right? And so he raises his hand and gets, Coach, what's your question? Coach Wooden, were you really going to kick Bill Walton off the team because he wasn't going to cut his hair, he wasn't going to shave, he wasn't going to wear the clothes you wanted him to wear? Coach Wooden looks at me, looks at the crowd, comes back. The only thing that matters is that Bill thought I was going to kick him off the team. And I did. And there was nothing more important than being on the team. And so as we get to Coach Wooden, that's what you wanted me to talk about, right? What's your name again? Anyway, so it's easiest to start with Coach Wooden about what he wasn't. We never watched film. He never used the blackboard. We never had a play. He never called timeout. In 4 years with the guy, he mentioned the other team twice. He thought that the other team was just irrelevant cannon fodder. He mentioned the other team twice in 4 years. We lost both of those games. Thanks a lot, Coach. And he also never started he never started practice with these words. So what do you guys want to do today? Coach Wooden, he rarely spoke about basketball. He never mentioned winning and losing. Coach Wooden, his job was thinking of all our paths forward, whether it's the dreamers on the screen, the scholarship recipients, or all of us, our path forward. The goal, the dream, the purpose. What are we doing here? How we're going to get there. Pick a coach, join a team, immerse yourself in the culture, and build your personal foundation, because the strength of the team is the strength of the individual. And to be that champion, all those elements that come in, all that, the commonality of themes that make teams great. And so here he was in this situation in his life, trying to build our own personal foundation through his pyramid of success that he developed as a high school English teacher when he was dissatisfied with the grading system, to the 7-point creed that his dad gave him when he was in high school, to the 2 sets of threes, to the endless lists of maxim and the tools to overcome adversity. And I'm going to steal 35 seconds in your time of your life here. So, because those absolute truths that he would speak, which we thought were nonsense. We were teenagers. He was 65 years old when we played for him. You know, we called him the walking antique. We couldn't believe here we were in Southern California in the 60s and 70s playing for the straightest guy on earth, right? And so when he started talking about things like industriousness and enthusiasm and friendship, loyalty, cooperation, intentness, initiative, alertness, self-control, physical fitness, skill development, commitment to the team, poise, confidence, competitive greatness. And then the 2 things that he added later on. He realized, though, that he made a mistake and left them out, but there was no shape left. Archimedes, Galileo, they had already shaped the pyramid, right? And so, you know, the Egyptian slaves, they had already built it, right? So he just put them up there as clouds. Now, I've heard that you guys still have clouds here. Now, in California, there's no more clouds. I mean, in the early parts of our lives, there were, but now it never rains there anymore. And so I don't know what we're going to do. And so Coach Wooden added the 2 words, the 2 human attributes and personal characteristics, faith and patience. Do you believe, and are you willing to put the life in that it takes to get this job done? And then his 7-point creed, which his dad Joshua gave him in high school. Make each day your masterpiece, drink deeply from all sources of knowledge, make friendship a fine art, prepare for the tough times that are sure to come, and when you're really up against it, make a donation to the Red Smith Awards Foundation. And then 3 others that I can't remember, but I have no memory. He had his 2 sets of threes. Don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal, don't whine, don't complain, don't make excuses. Get the job done, let's go. And then the endless maxims. Are you kidding? It made no sense. Be quick, but don't hurry. Failing to prepare is preparing to fail. Happiness begins when selfishness ends. Never mistake activity for achievement. The worst things you could do for the ones you love are the things they could and should do for themselves. Stubbornness we deprecate. Firmness we condone. The former is my neighbor's trait. The latter is my own. When everybody thinks alike, nobody thinks. It's okay to disagree, just don't be disagreeable. And then the one that he wrote for me on the day I graduated, June 1974, to Bill Walton. It's the things you learn after you know it all that count. John Wooden. And then his fallback mantra. Basketball, just like life, is not a game of size and strength. It's a game of skill, timing, and position. It's not how big you are, it's how big you play. It's not how high you jump, it's where you are and when you jump. So I'm scratching my head, and that's why I'm bald today, man. I scratch my head all the time. What are you talking about, you silly old man? How can you say, Coach Wooden, with a straight face, that basketball is not a game of size and strength? Come on. Kareem, he's got all the records. Shaq, he's got all the money. And Wilt, he's got 20,000 girlfriends. So you tell me it's not a game of size and strength. And he looked at me and he said, Walton, you're the slowest learner I've ever had. Don't you realize it's not about stuff? It's not about material accumulation and physical gratification. It's about training the mind to be the champion in everything. But that requires a powerful and strong ego that must be regulated. The ego will drive us to become great, but at some point, and that point is now, that ego has to be reined in, controlled, because we have a bigger picture, a bigger goal. And that goal is to give these children what they need, what they want, and what they deserve. And so that is why I am here tonight, because I am one of those recipients. And as I sit here tonight and I think about all the remarkable and incredible things that have happened to me in my life, and to be able to play against Kareem, I didn't even know he knew my name, right? That guy was so great. To play with Larry Bird, who was the greatest player I ever played with. To play as a teammate of Maurice Lucas from Marquette University, the greatest teammate I ever had. Now, this guy, Maurice Lucas, he was just so incredible. And he was very lucky, as we all are, because Maurice Lucas, he played in an era of only 2 referees and very limited use of instant replay. And so here it was, man, I'm living the dream, right? I'm in that locker room and I'm failing to prepare, preparing to fail, and I'm going over all the stuff in my mind, and all of a sudden, bam, I get an elbow in my rib cage, and I'm woken up out of my trance, and I look over and it's Maurice sitting right there in the locker next to me. He says, "Hey, what do we got to do to win this game?" And I said, "Come on, Luke, are you kidding me? There's 5 minutes to go before tip-off, and you're asking me now. We've had a whole week of special strategy sessions, films, matchups, new plays." And he puts his hand over my mouth and he says, "Shut up, Billy, and quit stuttering and spitting all over me. And I'm sorry to the people in the front row down here, but I'm a stutterer. I'm guilty, right?" And so he looks at me, he says, I don't care at all about strategy, matchups, plays, films. I care about people. Billy, I want you to look around this room right now and you tell me who you think has to do something special for us to win this game tonight. And so I look around and I'd identify a couple little guards over there. You know, they had nice hair too. And you know, these guards who had to do something more than just inbound the ball, feed the post, and play a little token defense on the perimeter, right? So I said, you know, if that guy over there, if he plays well, we're gonna get this game tonight. He says, he stands up over the top of me, and I'll try not to fall off this stage up here. He stands up over the top of me, and he looks down, and he says, "I'll take care of this." And he walks across the stage, statuesque, Raven-esque, Adonis of the night, just absolutely incredible. Maurice Lucas, he loved nothing more than just pummeling people in the face. Never more so than if that person is a bully, right? And so he sits down. He sits down in the chairs built for the preschool children, right? And he puts his hand on the guy's shoulder, right? All warm and fuzzy, like Bob Knight, like Bob Huggins, like Frank Martin, wherever Frank is coaching these days. And he goes, "Hey, Billy just told me that he thinks if you play really well, we're gonna win this game tonight." And the guy looks up at Maurice and he says, "No problem, Luke, I'll do my best." Now, Maurice goes from warm and fuzzy to being the toughest, baddest dude you've ever known. Now, Maurice, he never started any fights, he ended the fights. So Maurice takes that warm and fuzzy hand from the guy's shoulder, puts it on the back of the guy's neck, right? And jacks him up off the ground, and he pulls him in face to face and looks right into his soul, right through his eyes, right? And he says, "Your best is not good enough. If you don't play the game of your life tonight, I'm gonna kill you on the spot." And he throws the guy down, kicks him out of the way, and walks back to his chair. Yeah.
All right.
The guy played as if his life depended on it, and no one ever doubted that it did. What did you want me to talk about? How are we doing for time?
Oh, man. So let me ask you this, Bill. Let me go with this.
Bird.
Of all the accolades, and they're a mile long, there's a million of them, what are you most proud of?
I'm not proud. I'm disappointed, and I'm ashamed, and I'm embarrassed that I wasn't able to do more. And I'm the most injured player ever. I missed my 14-year NBA career. I heard KC talk about his incredible longevity and skills and records and championships, and then I think what he said was that his brothers came up and beat all those. Is that what he said? Yeah, I mean, I thought lacrosse was a city. And so, yeah. When I was fortunate enough to go into the Hall of Fame, and they told us, it was March 10th, 1993, not that I remember the date. They told us we each had 5 minutes to say our thanks and express our gratitude. Well, at the 16-minute mark of my first, of my 5 minutes, I took my first breath. And the guy in the back of the room, where Joe's standing over there, who's monitoring the situation for the NBA and realizing that the bars in Western Massachusetts close early, and so we had to get out of there that night. As I took my first breath at the 16-minute mark, he said, "Come on, Walton, let's wrap this speech up. It's lasting longer than your career did." But I'm proud of being part of something special. And I'm proud that the nicest thing that anybody's ever said about me as a basketball player was that I helped my teammates play better. I'm proud to have been part of incredibly special teams whose records still stand to this very day. I'm proud of the choices that I've made. They haven't all turned out to be the right choices, but they were, at the time, I thought they were right, and so I did those. And I don't live a life where I'm worried about external forces. I try to be the best that I can be. I try to live a life of service. I try to live a life of empowerment, and it drives my wife. And I was talking to the Vavi guys here before the show, and is it Vavi? Is that the correct pronunciation? Am I getting that right? The VA, Vavai. Yeah, okay. VAVAII. Yeah, I think. I don't know. Vavai, yeah. And I was telling them how my Vavai is, I'm his worst nightmare, because and my wife is, it's the same situation for her. Because whatever I get, I just give away. I got a very nice shirt, and I got a very nice pair of pants, and I got a great boot here, and I still have all the limbs, and I understand that people are in need, and I also live by the mantra that you can never live a perfect day without doing something for somebody who will never be able to pay you back, and that's what the Red Smith Awards are all about, and that's why I'm so thrilled to be here today, and to be a teammate of Larry Bird, who was the most remarkable and incredible player that I ever played with. And here was Larry, and there's, like with Maurice Lucas, like with John Wooden, there are a billion stories about him. And so, one time we're playing, and you win in two different ways. You win when you're just overwhelmingly superior to the other team, and that's the way Giannis lives his life. That's the way Kareem lived his life. But then there's the rest of us, right? And you win when you got to make that one play at the end. And so here we are on this great Celtic team in 1986, and we got all the winners of the genetic lottery there. Kevin McHale, who we called Frankenstein, because Kevin could stand erect as can be, and dangle his arms and scratch his shins without bending over. And Kevin McHale, I have metal throughout my body, right? All throughout my feet, all my knees, all my spine. I had it in my wrist, they had to take it out, and have it in my face and everything. But when Kevin needed his foot operation and they needed to put a screw in his foot, they just took the screw out of his neck. But Larry, we had the Chief, and we had DJ, and we had Danny Ainge, and Scott Wedman, and Rick Carlisle, and Jerry Seasting, and Casey Jones is our coach. And so we're at the moment of truth, and Abby's already sung, and we're ready to go, and we got to have one play to win the game at the very end. And so we're standing there in the huddle, and we're all standing there, and Casey Jones is that moment of truth where he's doubt, hesitation, indecision that's always there in every group dynamic, scratching his chin, looking at that clipboard, and Larry, take a look at a picture of Larry Bird and his right index finger on his shooting hand when he was playing at Indiana State Teachers College, where John Wooden got his college start back in the late 1940s. Larry was out playing softball with the girls in the spring during the NCAA tournament one year, and he took a softball on the end of his finger. And the finger just was mangled and warped, and in those days, you never went to the doctor, right? You'd have a bone sticking out of your arm. You gotta put some ice on it, rub some dirt on it, get on down, get over to Accelerate, he'll get you going out there again. And so Larry's finger could only be described kindly, generously, graciously as being shaped like a Z. And we could never figure out where Larry is pointing, right? And so Casey is looking at that board, and Larry leans right in, and he says, just give me the ball right there, and I'll make the jumper, and we're out of here with the victory. And Casey Jones stands up straighter than ever and looks at Larry, looks it up, and says, shut up, Bird, I'm the coach here. And we're like, Casey, it's okay. Come on, Larry's already got 43 points, 21 boards, 17 assists. We just need one more. Come on, let's go. Casey goes, I got it, guys. We're going to give the ball to Larry Bird right there. Larry was so good, he would go out and tell the other team what the play was, and there was nothing they could ever do about it. Just truly the most remarkable player of all. And it was just a real thrill and honor and privilege for him to call me up and ask me to be his presenter at the Hall of Fame. I was lucky as can be to, I think I've presented 8 guys into the Hall of Fame. I wish I had presented Casey. I wish I was going to present Leroy or Roy Lee. But I'm not holding my breath on that. But maybe with Colin and John and the hair guy, maybe I have a chance later on. I don't know. And what did you want me to talk about tonight?
Where do you assess where the game is right now?
The game is better than ever. And that's because of David Stern then and Adam Silver today. And David, this tall. I run into people invariably who come up to me and they'll say, I was going to be the next Larry Bird. I was going to be the next Michael Jordan, but I only grew to be 5'11". And I know right away that those guys don't understand that basketball, like life, is not a game of size and strength. It's a game of skill, timing, and position. And so I always ask them when they say that, I say, well, have you ever heard of David Stern? David Stern is this tall. David Stern never even shot a basket. And David Stern is the most important man in the history of basketball because he took a game and made it into a business. And what a business it has become. And then I ask him, have you ever heard of or seen Steve Nash from Canada, where Casey used to go across the border to jump across and just so his wife could be born in Canada. I mean, his baby could be born in Canada. And so Steve Nash, from Canada, right? And Steve Nash is this tall too. And of all the players I've ever seen in my life, no one ever struck me with more awe or more incredibility or incredulity than Steve Nash, who was this tall and couldn't jump this high, slow, but here he was out there with a mind and a heart and a brain and a spirit and a soul, just able to completely dominate everything. And then I closed that by asking, as we try to figure out how we're going to deal with our challenges and the powers that change us and force us to be something hopefully better, make us improve, and I asked that person, have you ever spent the night alone in bed with a mosquito? It's not how big you are, it's how big you play. And so as Coach Wooden kept talking about all the different elements of how we're going to overcome these challenges and the inequities, the inequalities in our life, and the lack of opportunity for so many, and the challenges, homelessness, and all the different things we got going on, and we're looking for leaders and heroes. And I had mine as a child, Bill Russell and Muhammad Ali, and Martin Luther King and Bobby Kennedy, and Grateful Dead and Jerry and Bob Dylan and Neil Young and John Fogerty and Jimmy Cliff and Jackson Browne. It's an endless list out there. Rolling Stones, Carlos Santana, Bruce Springsteen, the Eagles, Fleetwood Mac. And I'm asking these people, these young people today, who are your heroes and who are you looking up to? And the firefighter Lungard and my Rocky in my life. And then, I see this guy Zelensky over in the Ukraine and I don't need a ride, I need some ammunition, now let's go. And that's whose team I want to be on. That was Larry Bird's team, that was John Wooden's team, that was Maurice Lucas's team. And the choice that we have to be on these great teams in here. And so when Coach Wooden would talk about coming over the adversity that he knew was coming, we didn't know it was coming because we were so young and all of our lives had been basically perfect growing up in Southern California. And he talked about the motivation of the champions coming from within. We're going to see that with Giannis and all the guys going forward this year, and KD, is Steph going to be able to make it back? And then the incredible importance of balance and quickness, enabling us to get to what's next first. And quickness and balance, those are not physical skills, those are mental skills. How do you anticipate? Now, all you successful business guys out there who are figuring things out first, those are the guys who are going to write the history. Those are the guys who are going to win. And then the creative intelligence and imagination. It's going to be able to allow us to innovate to come up with the next new idea. And I've seen the transformation here in Wisconsin and the growth and around the world in the sport of basketball, and how today it's just better than ever. And the players are bigger and stronger and faster, and all the equipment, all that. I talked to the orthopedic doctor, I think his name was Dr. Craig. I'm not probably going to butcher that name. But anyway, all the different advances that we've had, and to utilize those in a positive way, but including and incorporating the values of empathy and sympathy to understand. And that's what this group is all about. Red Smith, yeah, that dream of seeing smiles on other people's face. And then the confidence that I was talking to young Abby about today, the confidence that the champions have that's earned on the court. Confidence is not something you hand to somebody, that you give to somebody, that you talk about. Confidence is something that you earn with a lifetime on that court. And I heard those stories from Leroy, from Casey, from the hair guy, and Colin, and John, and even from you. And so the sense of being that champion with the confidence to get the job done, to learn to love pressure and responsibility, and to say, hey man, this is on me and I'm going to get this done, and Abby delivered tonight and my job is to deliver too. And so when I was lying in that hospital bed on March 15th, 1990 in Whittier, California, Nixon's hometown. Oh my God, my 30th operation. The first 29 were a piece of cake, but now I choose Nixon's hometown as a place to go and get healed. What am I thinking, right? But that's where the doctor was. And so I'm lying there, and for the first time, the operation is going to be an end, where they're going to fuse my ankle, and I'm never going to run, I'm never going to play. Never going to be in the bus, in the locker room. And I heard all the stories tonight about how joyous and memorable all those moments were with the guys and the team and going forward, all that. And that's over for me. And so through the tears and through the sadness of this coming up operation, the tears just streaming down my face, because I love basketball, man. I love life. I love being alive. And I think it's over. And so as I'm spiraling helplessly, hopelessly downhill, it dawns on me, and this lightning bolt flash of inspiration sears across the smoking crater that's my mind. And I realize right then and there, in the hospital bed, I'm 6'11", I got red hair, big nose, freckles, goofy, nerdy looking face. I can't talk, I'm a stutterer, and I'm a deadhead, having been to more than 1,000 Grateful Dead concerts. Television is the only career possibility for me. And so here I am. Who would have ever thought? I never gave television a single thought, much less a second thought. When I made that decision, they just said, no, get out of here. You're going to start stuttering and spitting and talking about Jerry Garcia and Bob Dylan and Neil Young. We can't have it. Get out of here. But I stuck to it. I kept going. I kept coming at it, kept starting over, come right back to my core, utilizing the end of the line for John Wooden, the discipline, the perseverance, and the persistence, and living a life of honor that's going to get you where you want, the top of the mountain in the promised land. And so there I was, chasing that dream for 18 years. 18 years, and then on February 24th, 2008, not that I remember the date, my spine, which I had broken in college, playing basketball for UCLA, had been low bridged by some thug or some criminal who probably went to play for the Pistons afterwards. We have no idea who he was. And so here it was, after being told, no, get out of here, we're never going to put you on TV. My spine failed on February 24th. The week before that, I had been named one of the top 50 sportscasters of all time. And so when I am faced with the adversity questions, what do I do? How do I do this? What do I teach? What do I say? I'm always reminded of another Coach Wooden mantra. It's not how or what you teach, it's who the teachers are themselves. We have not taught until they've learned. And so, as I go through this whole deal, and I made it to all the tops of all these different mountains, I realized that as you're climbing these mountains, and you're getting near the top, and you look back down and you say, oh my God, I can't believe I came this far. And then I get to the top and I look out, and there's ever more mountains out there in front of us, and how many more different opportunities, how many more different challenges there are, and how many different privileges there are for me to go out there and try to do something to put that smile on those people's faces. And as I live this life of the constant pressure and the stress, and to be at the Final Four and to be at that game of forever between Duke and North Carolina, and all these guys just trying so hard, and the world writing the movie about how Coach K is going to go out on his final game, and it's all right there, and everybody's playing so great in the crowd, and just animosity, hatred, love, bliss, perfection, and it's all right there. And then at the very end of this scripted story of Coach K going out on his white horse Mescalito into the distance, North Carolina, of all teams, comes in and say, no, man, we're writing the ending here, because we never know how these games are going to play out. And while this world of stress and anxiety and anticipation and uncertainty and doubt and hesitation and risk and failure, it's all right there. And that's my life every single day. When we were coming home the other day, and it was the worst of everything, traffic, LA, California, smog, dirt, dust. I mean, the things I do a lot of, ride my bike and go on airplanes. And in those two situations, you see the best of humanity and you see the worst of humanity. And so there I was, and I was involved in just the worst of it all. And I'm just frustrated and angry and upset, and I'm just going ready, just crazy, to a place I didn't want to be. And my wife, Lori, is just sitting over there, just so calm and so poised and so quiet, but just so helpful in every way. And as I'm right about to lose it, she reaches over and taps me on the arm, and she says, hey, big boy, just remember, you were just named one of the 75 greatest players in the history of the NBA. I'm indeed the luckiest guy in the world. And I can see Joe with my peripheral vision. I can see the guy with the hair. And I know it's time to go. So.
One more time, the Hall of Famer, Bill Walton.
Please subscribe to this channel, give this video a thumbs up, and hit that notification bell so you get notified when we post another great episode or interview. Download the podcast on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you for your support.